It is truly amazing what one swing of the bat can do. JD Martinez saves the Mets from an embarrassing series loss. We'll talk about it on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It is incredible how much our emotions as fans are tied to this ball club. You can say that you don't care. You can say that it's not something that impacts you. But I'll tell you what, I really felt the impact of this club on my mental health or just my entire mentality with one swing of JD Martinez's bat. Because it's not something I think I notice when it's happening. The Mets are about to lose, and I'm frustrated, and I'm upset, and it just doesn't really register to me how much I am letting my identity and everything be tied up to what's happening with the Mets during a given game. But watching the game on Thursday was a frustrating experience. The Mets just could do nothing offensively. And then, the end, JD Martinez hits a walk-off home run, and I was laughing with my wife after, and I was saying, I think that there's something that's not healthy about how much my mood can swing on something that's that simple. Because if JD Martinez hits one to the warning track, I'm still pissed off right now. I'm on cloud nine. I'm effervescent. I feel great. It's unbelievable how much our emotions can swing. And there was however many Mets fans that were watching, or even just the ones following the box score on their phone, that went to bed a little bit happier because JD Martinez came through. But to go through the whole game, like I said, it was a frustrating existence. Luis Severino delivered another gem. He has really been the ace of the New York Mets, and he made the big pitch every time he needed to. Third inning, he pitched himself out of a jam where the first two runners get hits, and so he's sitting there, a couple guys on, no outs, finds his way through it. Fourth inning, he gives up a double. He walks two to load the bases. All of this came with one out. So he's sitting there, bases loaded. He needs a double play ball, and he gets it. And gets out of that bases loaded jam without a scratch. Fifth inning, Jazz Chisholm with two outs, bunts for a hit. Severino tries to make a spectacular play on it, comes up a little bit lame. They send the trainers out. He then walks the next batter. All of a sudden, he's got two runners on, needs to make a big pitch against Josh Pell. He gets the ground out he needs. He made one mistake the entire start. Sixth inning, solo home run. That's it. 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 walks, 1 run allowed, 2 strikeouts. He was great. He went 5 innings in his first 3 starts this year. Over his last 10 since April 17th, Luis Severino has gone 6 or more in 7 of his last 10 starts. He's got his ERA down to 3.12. But if you're the ace of the New York Mets, you lose. That's the rule, right? And he doesn't get the win here, but at least the team does. But again, it wasn't feeling like that was going to happen. Drew Smith comes on in the 7th. Of course, he gives up a solo home run. Of course. So now you're thinking, man, it was just 1 run. Now it's 2. And then bottom of the 7th, the Mets are trailing 2-0. They load the bases with nobody out and only score 1 run. How does that happen? Brandon Nimmo draws a leadoff walk. JD Martinez hits a double to put 2 runners in scoring position. With first base empty, Pete Alonso is walked. And here comes Starling Marte, who's been red hot. And he starts off the count 3-0. When I saw that 4th pitch wasn't a ball, I was so upset because I'm sure a lot of you felt the same way. I knew he was going to hit into a double play ball. I knew it. I was just praying, like, dude, come on. Just lift one. Just lift one. Just lift one. Just get a sacrifice fly and avoid the double play. Just come on. Just don't do what we all know you're going to do. And he hits into a double play ball, of course. And then Mark Vientos can't get a 2-out hit in that spot. And so right there, it's 2-1. Mets are losing. Sean Reed Foley, a 1-2 3/8. Edwin Diaz looked electric in the 9th, which is a really good sign for things moving forward. Comes off the IL. I think they have to, in my opinion, avoid pitching on back-to-back days, really just keep his arm rested, because I'll take a healthy and dominant Edwin Diaz every other day, even if he's not just pitching in save situations. Like, get him onto a routine where he's going every other day and you're really building him up, because this guy looked refreshed. He touched 100. He added 2 miles per hour basically on his slider and about 1.5 on his fastball from where it sat all year. Good inning, gets a strikeout. So that's a huge sign. Actually, I'm wearing Edwin Diaz shirt today just in honor of the great performance by him. But then you still had the Mets trailing and Tanner Scott coming into the game. And we watched Tanner Scott, the one really dominant reliever in that Marlins bullpen, a guy that is absolutely getting traded at the deadline. We saw him come on and you think, all right, well, that's the ball game. The Mets are going to lose a series and lose a game 2-1. And here they are just struggling to beat a Marlins team that's 20 games under. But Francisco Lindor draws a walk to lead things off. Brandon Nimmo still looks awful, even in the 2-hole. Really ugly strikeout. Francisco Lindor steals second, which, man, he got an unbelievable jump. It doesn't matter because JD Martinez obviously homered, but you really have to credit Lindor because that was a big-time superstar play where he put himself in scoring position for Martinez, the one guy in this lineup that you really could count on in a big spot. If he got a base hit, Lindor was going to score. So I wanted to acknowledge that stolen base because we watched Harrison Bader, who, for all the credit I will give him in the next segment and why I believe he should be playing every day in center field, he's been terrible on the bases this year, and he got thrown out again tonight. So to see Lindor against a good catcher as far as Christian Betancourt's arm, to grab that bag, that was big, but it didn't matter because JD Martinez gets into a hitter's count, 3-1. He had seen some fastballs up in the zone, so I think he was sort of expecting that there might be a breaking ball coming, sort of setting him up for that slider low that he's supposed to swing through and chase. But Tanner Scott didn't get it quite low enough. It was out of the zone, but he needed a little bit lower to avoid Martinez's bat. And honestly, it was just a great piece of hitting. That ball broke into his bat. It actually almost was a little bit in. And it was reminiscent of a Mike Piazza home run. Mike Piazza was talking hitting when he was out there for the London series, and just how he would always let that ball travel and get deep on him. And that's really what JD Martinez does here. Great hitters can do that. He lets that ball get deep on him, and he still gets a barrel on it. Right center field, 2-run homer. He said after the game, you don't know at this ballpark all the time if it's going to go out, but if that one didn't go out, I don't know what would. He hit 107 miles per hour off the bat. Bomb of a home run. And again, with one swing of the bat, you have an absolute change in emotions. The entire field of ball club. That's how crazy baseball is. It's such a game of margins. And I guess you can look at every sport, right? In football, every inch counts. Or in basketball, if you miss a shot by a little bit, it's going to bounce off the rim instead of going in. But baseball, more than any, in the marathon, there's so much just change in emotions and momentum. And things can snowball on you one way or the other. This was a moment where if the Mets lose this series, that momentum that you grabbed in DC when you won those 3 games, and the one that you were able to carry over by barely scratching out a victory against the Phillies in London. Well, now your jet lag game 1, you lose that. You win game 2 in convincing fashion. You have an ugly game 3, but you find a way to win to beat the Marlins in a series. And that's what the Mets have to do. Just win each series that's in front of you. And ultimately, you'll be in a position where things look pretty good moving forward. So huge victory thanks to JD Martinez. And it keeps the Mets in line here as they have another series at home against the Padres coming up. But what I want to talk about in the next segment is the biggest hole on the Mets roster right now. What are they going to do with Jeff McNeil? I want to go through that, as well as Brett Baty, who could be part of the solution, making a start in AAA at second base. We'll talk about it in just a minute. First, though, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Mets, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and can even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help filing correctly, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. You can also just see the link in the episode description below. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime something breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You get the lineup graphics sent to your phone each day. And also you can take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. If you look at where the Mets are at with their starting lineup right now, there's a lot of fixtures, everyday guys. Third base, Mark Vientos has earned that job. Shortstop, first base, DH. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, and JD Martinez are pretty much going to be in there for every single game. Catcher, obviously, that's not a position where anyone really starts every day. You're going to see Alvarez start probably 2 games each series and Luis Torrens start the other one. And I think he's probably going to be Severino's personal catcher moving forward. So that's just one thing to think about because Sevy's got heavy sinker usage. That's going to be tough on Alvarez with his thumb. Also, I don't know if they had any crossover with the Yankees, but Severino did commend Torrens after the start. So I think that's probably something we will continue to see as long as Severino's on the Mets. So catcher, that's obviously a good spot for the Mets. I think it's a real strength. Left field, for better or worse, Brandon Nimmo's going to be out there. Now, he's been a problem lately. You just got to hope that he can snap himself out of it because it's been a really bad funk, but you're not going to bench him at this stage. He's making too much money, too long of a deal. He's too important to your club. So, and he's shown us some things this year. He's had good moments. The batted ball data has been good. He's hit the ball hard. It's just been a really bad slump. So he's not going anywhere. Harrison Bader. Said I would say some nice things about him in this segment, and here it is. I think he is the starting center fielder for sure. I don't want to see Tyrone Taylor stealing stars from him. On the occasion where you want to put Nimmo in center and have somebody else in left, I get it. But to me, Harrison Bader just gives you so much defensively. And his offensive stats are a little deceiving because you look at his OPS, it's at 697. That's not necessarily good. Yet it seems like he's always the guy that breaks up the no-hitter, and he's clutch. So I love Bader as the starting center fielder at this point. He's one of 4 Mets this year that has been worth a win when it comes to wins above replacement. It's Lindor, who's over 2, Nimmo, Mark Vientos in a short amount of time, Bader, and then Alonso's at like 0.9. So Bader should be the center fielder. Now, right field, Starling Marte has been great lately. I can talk about how bad he's been defensively, but offensively, his OPS has been over 1,000 in his last 15 games. For his last 30 games, he's hitting 300 with a 358 on base, 470 slug. He's been very good. So he's going to be out there most days in right. There's one hole on this team, and that's second base, and it's Jeff McNeil. We saw him start every game this series, and he didn't look good. Hitting 223, 289 on base percentage on the season, 601 OPS. His career OPS is in the 780s, so he's 180 points worse with his OPS compared to what he's been in the past. Last year was a rough season for him. He sort of came on down the stretch and ended up being a 270 hitter, which is not terrible, but he's a far cry from the batting champion. Now, it could be easy. You have Jose Iglesias, who's batting 435 right now in a very limited sample. He could be your starting second baseman. But at this point in his career, he's a journeyman. I think they will continue to start him against some left-handed pitching, but I think McNeil, now I'm looking back at it, I'm pretty sure Iglesias started the first game of this series, right? He started against Luzardo off the top of my head. I think I actually had that wrong. I think McNeil played in all 3 games. Regardless, Iglesias starting against lefties, that's great, but the upcoming series, it's all righties for the Padres. So are they going to keep running Jeff McNeil out there? I think they will try to in hopes of seeing some life, but at some point you're going to have to make a move, and Iglesias might be able to keep this up, but I don't really know. So you look at Brett Baty starting at second base in AAA tonight, and it is something to think about. Now, no errors were made in the game, so he played a clean game at second base. He did turn a double play. I saw the video of it. It didn't look great. It didn't look bad. The footwork was a little slow, but he's got a strong arm to make up for it. Brett Baty, though, offensively, in 5 games since his demotion to AAA, he's on another level. I mean, he's hitting over 400 in AAA. He's recorded hits in each game, multiple hits in 4 of the 5 games. He has 3 home runs, 9 RBIs in 5 games. Tonight, he went 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and 3 RBIs. I mean, he's too good to be in AAA offensively. That pitching is not challenging him. I think the Mets know that, and I don't believe they're going to keep him there forever. I also, quick note, Luis Angel Acuna went 4 for 5 in that same game today. But with Brett Baty, Carlos Mendoza was talking about him today, and he said that it's just good to get him a start at second base. He's still a third baseman, but we want him to have his first innings there in the minor leagues instead of up here. Gives you more roster flexibility. He is not putting any of the pressure on Baty to be the starting second baseman for the Mets, to be the answer. And he's got to hit first. But over the last 30 days, DJ Stewart has gotten 36 at-bats. He's hitting 139. He's only getting on base at a 244 clip, and he has a 167 slug. He's not impacting the baseball anymore, and he has just been buried on the bench where he's not getting enough time to get out there and to look good. So I think he's a guy that you can probably option soon. Now, also, Tyrone Taylor has struggled in a limited sample size. Now, he had a 4-hit game in the second game of this series, a big game by Taylor there. But even with that 4-hit game, he's hitting 191 over the last 30 days, 224 on base, 298 slug. What I think the Mets can and probably will do at some point over the next week or 2 weeks here. Brett Baty, I believe, is going to come back onto this roster, and DJ Stewart, who can be optioned, is going to be sent down to AAA. Now, what does that do for your roster construction? Well, in the outfield, it clears the guy that was maybe grabbing some starts, and I believe it makes Jeff McNeil the 4th outfielder. Now, he'll still get some time at second base, but I think McNeil becomes your 4th outfielder that would grab some starts in left or in right. That's a big benefit, right? He can actually play a good right field. Not that Tyrone Taylor can, he can as well, but just gives you another option, okay? So I think McNeil becomes more of an outfielder. Still will play some second. Iglesias can get some run, and I think Baty gets some run at second as well as third base. Now, you look at Mark Vientos. Does he deserve to play every day? Absolutely. But if you look at the splits, he is hitting 366 against lefties, 435 on base, 707 slug. Against righties, he's hitting 250, 311 on base, 400 slug. It's not bad. A 711 OPS is better than whatever Baty's done this year, so don't get me wrong there. But over a 9-game span, like if they were to make this switch tomorrow, and they could because Baty has spent 10 days in the minor leagues, and for position players, it's only 10 days is the option window, so he can come back. So over the next 9 games before the Mets play the Yankees, you got a series against the Padres, 1 against the Rangers, 1 against the Cubs. I don't know how many lefty starters the Mets will face, but let's just say Mark Vientos starts 7 of those 9 games, and then he becomes your first bat off the bench whenever you need a hitter for the other couple games. And Brett Baty starts 2 at third. Maybe Brett Baty can steal a start in each series at second, and he gets 5 starts in a 9-game span. And maybe Iglesias starts a couple in each series, and there you go. That could be your platoon. Or maybe you start one of each guy, Iglesias, Baty, and McNeil in a given series at second. I don't know how they would break up the playing time, but with McNeil's ability to play the outfield and the infield, with Baty being able to play third base and second base, and Iglesias who can play anywhere, but would probably primarily be a second baseman for the Mets, I think you'd have a lot more roster flexibility. And ultimately, I think Brett Baty and Mark Vientos as a platoon, not that it would be one where they're completely splitting up the at-bats where every time there's a righty, Baty's starting. But we have seen that work where Brett Baty is on the bench because Mark Vientos has been starting, and then all of a sudden late in games, you can go to Baty defensively if you want to, or, Baty gets the start and a tough lefty comes in to face him. Now Mark Vientos is in a favorable matchup late in the game where he can win you one. I like the ability to do that, and I think that's going to provide you a lot more value than whatever DJ Stewart's doing for you right now. And on top of that, I think the Mets want to see Baty back in the big leagues. I believe that developing Brett Baty and Mark Vientos is sort of the biggest milestone or the biggest initiative that the Mets need to tackle this year. Seeing if you have 2 everyday players there, because you might. And if Pete Alonso is going to leave at some point, it's good to know that. We talked about that a lot on yesterday's show. So getting these guys the opportunities at the big league level is important. And when you see Brett Baty go down and just look like he's playing JV all of a sudden, you want to see him back up to see him challenged again. And maybe you can be in a world where Brett Baty all of a sudden hits himself into being the Mets starting second baseman. And you have Baty at second, Vientos at third, Alonso at first, JD Martinez at DH. All these guys are playing. And maybe the Mets go on a run with this team that they have in place. And Jeff McNeil is just relegated to a bench role. But the way McNeil has played, he has opened up this opportunity for other guys to grab his job. And Iglesias has made a great audition towards it, and that could just be the answer. But I have a sneaking suspicion that DJ Stewart and Brett Baty are going to be flipped on this roster in short order here, whether that's the upcoming series, whether that's another week where maybe Baty is playing a lot. That's one thing to note. How much does Brett Baty play second base? Right now, they're saying, okay, it's just one start, so he gets his first innings at the position in AAA. Well, what if he stays there this weekend and he starts 2 more games out of a 3-game, the minor league series are different. But regardless, if on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he starts Friday at second again, Saturday at third, and then right back to second base on Sunday, if they're force feeding him some playing time there, it tells me that this is a real thing where when Brett Baty comes back, he might be something of a second baseman while still, of course, grabbing some playing time at third, mixing and matching with Vientos. I think that will make the Mets a better team, though. When they ultimately make that roster switch, I think that their bench will be better because, honestly, as bad as Baty has looked offensively this year, I think I'd still prefer his at-bats than DJ Stewart, the way Stewart has looked lately, especially because Baty would have the ability to get into the lineup a little bit more than I think Stewart can. I think Stewart's more boxed out than Baty would be, and Baty would then, potentially be more in rhythm than a Stewart has been. And then I just think that anything that's taking playing time for McNeil right now might be a good thing because the guy just unfortunately can't hit, and it sucks to pile on him because I was a big Jeff McNeil fan, but it's tough to watch, and it becomes even worse with his mindset, right? His attitude when he gets a strike called against him, and he's sitting 1-1 in a count. It feels like he's already lost because he's so pissed off at the umpire that it just feels like he has no chance to keep himself in an at-bat. And it's hard. It's really hard to watch. It is. So we'll see what happens with McNeil, with Baty, all that stuff. I will have a series preview for you, but it's going to be somewhere else. Instead, Friday Farm Report next. I'll talk about all of that in just a minute. First, though, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And this weekend, why not catch the Mets at Citi Field? It's a lot of fun to go to games. You can find great tickets at GameTime. It's the place to go for last-minute tickets. When I'm going to a game now, I wait. And right before I'm about to walk into the ballpark, I pull open the app. I look at all the potential deals. You can get a zone deal where they'll give you like 20% off a specific section, or it'll be like 3 sections. You'll guarantee to get a ticket somewhere in that range. And they will, slash the price on it. All of a sudden you get your seats and you're good to go. We had great seats in DC with the zone deal. All in prices up front, show you your total with all the fees and everything calculated in, so you don't have to worry about, getting surprised. You can buy tickets in 2 taps, matter of seconds, less than a minute, maybe even 30 seconds. You could buy tickets. It could be that quick. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Down the GameTime app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Down the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, it looks like the NBA and the NHL playoffs may be over in short order. A couple of series on the verge of sweeps. If you want to be up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. Now, series preview. I'll give you a brief one here because I did a full series preview on Locked On Padres. So if you want to check that out, head over to Locked On Padres today. And Javi and I did like 35 minutes on these 2 teams, this series. Really fun show. So if you want an in-depth series preview, check that out. To give you the Cliff Notes version, the Padres are the second wildcard team right now. They're 37-35, the only wildcard team outside of the Braves that has a winning record. Their offense has been clicking since they got Luis Ariz. they're a good team. Not a great team, but a good team. Now, they're coming off sweeping the A's, I believe. If you look at the matchups, Matt Waldron is starting game one. He's a knuckleballer. That's against Sean Manaea. That's Friday night. Saturday afternoon, late afternoon, 4 o'clock game. Adam Mazur, a rookie making, I think it's his third start with a 9 ERA. So that spells trouble to me. We saw what I didn't even mention that. I should acknowledge that. How frustrating was it that Rodri Munoz had a no-hitter in the 6th inning against the Mets? It's unbelievable. I made a Chris Heston reference on that Locked On Padres crossover because I'm so frustrated by these no-name guys who somehow carved the Mets, and I'm worried about Adam Mazur, although he is a top prospect. Now, Jose Quintana is going to go up against him on Saturday. Sunday, you got Dylan Cease versus Tyler McGill. So the Mets, they should try to do their work early because beating Dylan Cease is not going to be an easy task on Sunday afternoon. Although I am looking forward to seeing if McGill can put together some of the good stuff from his start against the Marlins and extend it and go deeper into a game for once. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Again, though, full series preview and breakdown over at Locked On Padres today. It's Friday, though, so I still wanted to give you our typical Friday farm report, and we got some interesting players to discuss. I'll start in AAA, just run through that rotation. Dom Hamill had a good start tonight. 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs on 7 hits, 1 walk, struck out 4. So good to see him have a quality start. It's been a real struggle for Hamill in AAA, so nice to see him get a good one across. Jose Butto, also a quality start this week. 6 innings, 2 earned, 6 strikeouts. Joey Lucchesi, a quality start this week. 6 2/3, 2 earned on 2 solo homers, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. It is because of that pitching depth the Mets have, not to mention Christian Scott, that I still believe they can DFA Jose Quintana if he pitches poorly on Saturday. Will the Mets do it? I don't know, but just going to continue to throw that out there until something happens. Although I tried to speak Adrian Hauser being DFA'd into existence, and that didn't work. He's actually been a valuable pitcher out of the bullpen. So you never know how all this is going to shake out. There is a world where a McGill or a Peterson's in the bullpen when Scott comes up, or they just go to the straight 6-man and they wait for 2 more weeks to bring up Christian Scott, which I will continue to gripe about until we see him. So hopefully they don't waste too many bullets with Scott. Now, Blade Tidwell is the real guy we're focusing in on in AAA when it comes to their rotation, and he had a rough last couple outings. He followed up Christian Scott's start, not this past one, the one prior, did not pitch well. I think that's why Christian Scott got an extra day in this turn, because it allowed Mike Vassell to pitch after him and piggyback. I think they wanted to give Blade Tidwell his own start, considering how bad that went coming out of the bullpen, where he didn't even get out of the inning that he pitched, gave up 4 runs. This week, a little bit better, but he did get chased in the 5th inning with 2 outs. Gave up 3 runs, all on solo homers, walked 3 in that start. But I will acknowledge that even with allowing 7 runs in his last 5 1/3, Blade Tidwell has a better ERA in AAA than both Mike Vassell and Dom Hamill, and that's why he's the top prospect at that level, outside of Scott, who's just making a pit stop there. Let's talk about Ryan Clifford real quick here. He has been red hot in June. Remember, this is one of the Mets' best hitting prospects. I'd argue strictly on the bat, he is the best bat that you can watch right now in the Mets system, because Luis Angel Acuna, it's about his all-encompassing value, his speed on the bases, his defense, which makes him a better prospect than Clifford, and he's in AAA. But with Drew Gilbert and Jet Williams sidelined, Ryan Clifford is the guy I'm most curious to watch and see how he's doing each given day. And in the month of June, he's hitting .233, which isn't great, but the .429 on base certainly is. 11 walks to 8 strikeouts. Got a .700 slugging percentage. He has hit 4 home runs this month, 2 doubles. Now, they wanted him in Double-A instead of High-A because that field in Brooklyn, coming off the water on the boardwalk, it's just hard to get power to right field. And so they felt like if they brought him to Binghamton, for one, he'd be challenged more, but also his power would play when he got into it. And now you're seeing it. And with home run hitters, it's one of those things where once you start to see the ball get over the wall, you can really, hit the ground running. So I'm curious to see what Clifford's numbers are going to be by the end of this month. Still has some time left. Could he go on another home run heater? It's been a couple of games now since he hit one where Ryan Clifford, you look up at the end of the month, he has 8 home runs in the month, or maybe even pushes it to 10, because that's where you start to really take notice when this guy's hitting home runs in droves. he is a prospect that really could be up very quickly. Not this year, but if Ryan Clifford has a monster season in AA, he's a guy that's going to be an inner circle prospect for the Mets. He's already pretty close to being consensus top 5, or if not, he's definitely somewhere within your top 7, I would say. This guy's a big year in AA, and you're going to see Christian Scott graduate, so that's going to take one guy off the list. He could be a pretty clear top 5 prospect in the system, and a guy that is clearly identified as the best power hitter the Mets are developing. So really exciting to see him find some success now in AA after struggling so much in high A. Speaking of high A, Christopher Suero and Nick Morabito were promoted from low A to high A at the same time. And Suero has been on a tear this past week. Over the last 6 games he's played, he's hitting .381 with a couple of home runs, 6 walks, 2 strikeouts. Since going to Brooklyn, and he's a catcher, by the way, .247 average, .387 on base, .404 slug. Really good numbers in 27 games. Meanwhile, Nick Morabito, 7 for his last 21. That's a .333 average over the last 5 games he's played, I believe. But in 29 games played in Brooklyn, he's hitting .309, 308 average, .409 on base, .393 slug. He has stolen 19 bases on 23 attempts. Now, with Morabito, the question is going to be, can he develop into some power? He's still young. I think he's 20. Can he grow into not necessarily huge home run power, but can he hit more doubles? Can he drive the baseball a little bit more? Because that's the one hole in his game. Great discipline, good feel to hit. A guy that is getting on base at a great clip. And the fact that he's stealing bases does take some pressure off of his ability to drive the baseball, because, hey, if you get a base hit and you steal second, it's as good as a double. But that's really the things you want to watch for. Can he figure out a little bit more slug to his game? And if not, can he sustain this level of average and on base prowess when he continues along? Because if he's in AA and AAA hitting .300, getting on base at a .400 clip and playing good defense in center and stealing bases, at some point, who cares if he's hitting for extra bases? But that's just something to follow with Morabito. Another prospect to talk about here, we spent some time on him last week. I believe it was last week or it was 2 weeks ago, because he got the call up to St. Lucie, and that's AJ Ewing. Now, Ewing, he was the comp pick, as I talked about, for Jacob deGrom, a 4th rounder. I think it's interesting to mention that because there's been a lot of discussion, of course, about Pete Alonso and what's the value of having him play out this season and potentially only getting a comp pick for him when, because the Mets are a luxury tax-paying team, that comp pick is going to be in the 4th round. So how valuable would that pick really be? I point to AJ Ewing because there is a chance that AJ Ewing will be a top 10 prospect in the Mets system at some point over the next couple of years. It's early. A lot has to happen. But in 7 games in low A, he's hitting .292. He's getting on base at a .414 clip. He's got a .458 slug. He's hit 4 home runs in his last 11 games played when you take the games he's played in low A and the last 4 he played in the complex league where he hit 3 home runs. There's some power here. There seems to be a good feel to hit, some discipline at the plate when it comes to his eye. You never know. This guy, could be a second baseman that you're really interested in a couple of years, and you got him for a 4th round pick. So to say that 4th round pick has no value, it's not entirely true. I think with Pete Alonso, there's a lot that goes into that conversation. It's not something that we should discuss in a farm report, but just want to acknowledge Ewing continues to hit and a guy that we will absolutely continue to monitor. Now, 2 more players to discuss here, 1 injury note and 1 guy with performance. The Dominican Summer League has started, so we can actually get some stats on Giovanni Rodriguez, who was the Mets' big ticket signing in this last international free agent period. Was it over $3 million, something crazy he got? A lot of the Mets pool was devoted to this one catching prospect. So far, not great numbers, but it's a small sample size. This is more just acknowledging that he's playing baseball games in a Mets uniform. I think he's on the orange team in the DSL, but he's 2 for 20 so far with a double and 5 walks. We'll keep tabs on him as the sample size grows. Now, the injury note. Brandon Sproat has not pitched in some time. You might be wondering about it. It's tough to get any intel on minor league injuries. Kind of shows you what teams would like to do on major league injuries if they had their druthers and could do whatever they wanted to. You just don't get a lot of information, but there was a tweet by Ernest Dove, I believe, Ernest does, I know he does photography and pictures for Mets minors, for Mets Mirage. I know that for sure. And he does some reporting and covering of the Mets minor league system. He sent out a tweet this week, said, regarding questions on Mets pitching prospect Brandon Sproat, my understanding is he incurred a bit of a freak accident type of situation in the last week, leading to not pitching, but have not been told any further doom and gloom scenario. So unless told otherwise, I'd say he's okay for now. So take that for what it is, but that is apparently the reason why we haven't seen Sproat. Maybe there's some type of freak accident. We've seen, guys trip off of curbs and break their toes. And I mean, who knows what's going on there, but it's unfortunate because Sproat was having an unbelievable season. Hopefully he's back on the mound in Double-A in short order. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. I like to do shows after Friday night games. I'll be back for another show recapping the game Friday night on Saturday morning. So make sure you check that out. If you're listening on the audio side, follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, trying to make a push to 9,000 subs. We get closer and closer. I appreciate all of you that continue to subscribe. You can follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen or your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, head over to YouTube. Check out Locked On Sports Today, which is streaming 24/7, giving you all the latest in the world of sports. Locked On Sports Today is also streaming on Amazon Fire TV.